This is a PlayStation 5. It came out in 2020 at $399, and now it costs $599. Nintendo's announced a price hike to their Switch 2. The Xbox has raised its price 3 times since 2025, and at the same time, PlayStation announced it's going to stop shipping physical game discs entirely. Xbox has axed 5 of its big game production studios and fired thousands of people in what's being called one of the biggest single layoffs in gaming history, all while Nvidia has started capping how many hours a month you're allowed to play when using their services. The craziest part? Everything I've just mentioned is linked. This is actually all part of a single chain reaction that's already started in the gaming industry. And I don't see where it stops.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We have to talk about bad news again, but in a bit of a different way with a silver lining. Now I know, Des again with one of these videos. Trust me guys, I bet you're tired of hearing me rant about the doom and gloom of the games industry over the past few weeks, but don't worry, there's some game videos cooking right now, specifically one for Motor Slice and one for Beast of Reincarnation. They sent me a key to Beast of Reincarnation as well, I don't know what's going on. Xbox sends me a key, now these guys send me a key, I don't even know who they are. Anyway, let's get to the point. There's this video that went pretty viral in gaming circles over the last few days from Mr. Who's the Boss, and it pretty much perfectly lays out just how cooked the future of the industry side of gaming is from the reaming that we're getting from big tech. Some of the information in the video isn't necessarily new, it's stuff that has been getting logged since last year already, but his video is a nice, quick and clean way to get to the point, plus it additionally sheds some light on realistic repercussions that the race towards AI is still bound to have on our hobby. What I would like to do in my video here though is talk about solutions to the problem as a response, plus also going over some things that I disagreed with the dude's video on. One of the problems that he notes is actually what I believe to be a solution to the problem. And hopefully I'll be able to show how and shed some light on that from the position of a gamer who's been clued into what's been going on. So without further ado, let's jump right in there. So the video starts with something that you're probably very well aware of already. Tech companies have been investing into AI and their data centers, resulting in the vast majority of the production of memory chips being diverted to them, which leaves very little to go around for us and our comparatively insignificant needs like our computers, consoles, phones, etc. It's not only that these companies are eating up the entirety of the market, it's also that they are making the memory manufacturers not even want to be in the same market at all. In other words, we have the example of Micron. Last year it came out that they would shut down crucial consumer products which made RAM for our computers, because it's a waste of time and resources when they could instead be making big memory chips for data centers.
Inside, you would find 16 gigabytes of RAM. A single AI chip from Nvidia, the Blackwell Ultra, requires 288 gigabytes of memory, 18 PlayStation 5's worth of RAM. Now it is a fancier type of memory than what's in your PlayStation, but it's made on the same production lines by the same companies, so every gigabyte that goes into this is a gigabyte that can't be made for a PS5. And the problem is when AI companies buy chips for their data centers, they don't just buy one. Chips are sold in racks, each containing 72 of those AI chips, so one rack equals 1,300 PlayStation 5s. Oh dear. And they don't just buy one rack. Racks are purchased in clusters. Last year, Microsoft switched on their first big cluster. That cluster was 64 racks in one go. 83,000 PlayStation 5s. OpenAI is currently building out the Stargate campus that will reportedly hold 100 times the number of racks as that first purchase. 8.3 million PlayStation 5's worth of memory in one company's one site. And so when you factor in that there are also other AI companies, Meta and their even larger Prometheus site, xAI's Colossus, supposedly the world's most powerful data center, Amazon, Google, and every other big tech company who's galloping headfirst into the AI wars, we have reached a point where AI data centers are now estimated to be swallowing up 70% of the world's memory output. And that has left everything else on the planet that needs memory, every phone, every PC, every car, every console, having to now fight over the small and rapidly shrinking pool that's left.
Okay, we are cooked. Yep, we are absolutely cooked, chat. GG.
That we already knew. We all saw the headlines, invest into a PC as soon as possible. If you want to buy a console, buy as soon as possible, etc. because the prices for RAM and GPU will just keep going up, making PCs and consoles much more expensive. So far, so good. Well, I mean, not good, but I know you guys already know about it. But the video goes on to add much more to that in form of other adjacent repercussions, which is also not entirely new, but is important to be aware of because sometimes a lot of the talk surrounding this matter over the past few months has been focused on what might happen, and the reality is that it's already happening now. Companies that are in the business of hardware are straight up checking out.
I was speaking to the director of one of the big Windows handheld companies, the companies that make this kind of stuff, and his words were, man, Windows gaming handhelds and computers are dead now. No company will launch new products if the memory prices continue to rise. It is crazy now. How bad do things need to be for a director of a currently operating business to call their own business dead?
And the ones who aren't being so publicly forthcoming, like PlayStation and Xbox, have already gone on record talking about how the current business model is unsustainable. Don't forget, Asha Sharma herself, someone who's been getting glazed back, forward and sideways over the last few months for making changes around Xbox instead of letting it stagnate and rot away, has expressed how the current business model is unsustainable. And by current business model, what she means is gamers owning their consoles or PCs to game on and being able to buy individual games. She thinks it's too expensive, says that people aren't going to be up for spending thousands of dollars on their hobby. And I straight up hate this. The framing alone is condescending and fake. These people ahead of these companies, be it Xbox, PlayStation or Nvidia, who's doing the same thing, are not concerned about us and our best interests. In fact, these companies' alternatives to this crash that is ongoing is not cheaper than buying and owning our systems and our games. It's far more expensive for us. It's just that it's not upfront. It's an incremental cost that we'll have to pay every month. Instead of spending, say, $1,000 on a new console or new PC or Steam machine, whatever, and turning it on to play whatever we want, whenever we want, and instead of spending $70 on a new game and then playing it for as long as we want, whenever we want, we are buying a monthly subscription that gives us access to a server that lets us play a catalog of games. If the service is down, you don't play. If your internet is down, you don't play. If the service decides to throttle how many hours you get to play, like Nvidia is already doing with theirs, you don't play. And if, like every other service out there, the service cycles games in and out as months go by, then you don't play what you want. You gotta pick something else or subscribe to more services looking for the games that you want to play. That's the other doozy about this system of theirs too. It's that of course it won't just be one service, it'll be dozens, just as it happened with TV. We had Netflix before and then like 10 others showed up, and nowadays you have to be subscribed to at least 3 of them in order to ensure that you get to watch something you actually feel like watching, since popular shows and movies are divided with split licenses between them, just like video games will be divided with split licenses between the big giant ones that pop up. Even now we can already see this, like Game Pass exists, PlayStation Plus exists, but for example EA's games are in their own service called EA Play, and Ubisoft's games are in their own service called Ubisoft Connect or whatever. Now if you buy the Game Pass Ultimate, EA's games are in there, and I think if you buy PlayStation Plus Extra, Ubisoft's games are in there. So there's going to be these little deals where they, I get this publisher and this studio and this company, and you get that publisher and that studio and that company, and it's just going to be a big fucking clown show where you're paying multiple subscriptions. Now let's go back to Boss's video. I'll play a clip from there. It's a bit long, but hang in there because towards the end he will actually mention a thing that is good. He's going to mention the solution, but he's going to frame it as a bad thing, and that's what I want to talk about.
Now, gamers aren't going to stop playing games, right? But are they going to have to start changing where they play them? Very possibly. If the PlayStation 6, for example, launches at 2.5 times the base price that the PS5 did, $1,000, then it's not a crazy thought that far fewer people are going to buy a PS6. The entire console gaming industry relies on momentum. These companies have to sell tens of millions of these consoles right out the gate to prove to developers that their new platform is worth developing for. You either sell tons of boxes, have developers flooding to your platform to make games for those users, and then even more users buying your console because of those games. The Nintendo Wii is a great example of forward momentum like this, with the console eventually hitting 101 million sales. Or you bottle it at the start, like the Wii U, which came just after the Wii, and in its entire lifetime has only hit 13.5 million. So my question is, how on earth are Sony or Xbox going to build any kind of momentum with their next-gen consoles if they're priced at $1,000? If these companies want to continue to maintain their profits, they have to claw back money from other places. And as far as I can see, there are 4 ways that they could do this. The first lever they can pull is subscriptions. I think these companies will raise the price of subscriptions and will make it feel more essential to pay a monthly fee to get the experience. Lever 2 is game prices. And we've already been seeing a lot of this before the memory crisis. Like $60 was the default price for a game for 15 years. Then it jumped to $70 in 2020, only to now start another jump to $80, just 5 years after. The third lever is control. This is what we've just seen happen with Sony, announcing that from 2028 onwards, they're going to seize distribution of physical discs. And if that doesn't already sound like a problem, look at this. On my PlayStation right now, if I want to buy, say, Immortals of Avian, a game that, safe to say, flopped pretty hard, Sony is currently selling that for £69.99. That exact same game, I can pop onto my phone, go onto CEX, and order the physical edition for £5. It is crazy to think that this second option could just disappear. And crazier still, that this is how Sony prices games while these other options still exist. What are they going to do when there's no other option?
We are absolutely cooked, chat. GG.
The final lever that brands like Sony and Xbox are going to have to pull is cost cutting. Like I mentioned, Xbox has actually divested 5 big game studios, including the people behind massively popular titles like Hellblade and Psychonauts, and in the process also axed around 3,200 jobs. This is one company's one set of layoffs. And still, it means 3,200 potentially talented level designers, graphic designers, voiceover artists who were previously working on the next generation of games, who there's a very good chance are just not anymore. From an industry trade analysis in May 2026, a higher hardware entry price changes the shape of the next install base cohort and feeds directly into the lifetime value assumptions that justify a green light decision at the publisher level. Publishers decide whether to make a game based on projections of how many consoles are going to exist in the future to sell it to. Now, imagine if on top of everything else, the higher prices, the dirtier tactics, the reduced focus on next generation, that we also start getting fewer big budget games too, because there's fewer people to make them.
Alright, hope that wasn't too much to take in because we're going to jump right into it. Most of the things he brought up are probably things you've already heard about time and time again, even on my own channel, because I've been yelling about some of these things for a while now. But the last lever he mentioned there about cost cutting is actually a great thing.
3,200 jobs. This is one company's one set of layoffs. And still, it means 3,200 potentially talented level designers, graphic designers, voiceover artists who were previously working on the next generation of games, who there's a very good chance are just not anymore.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
The key word right there is potentially talented. The way the industry has been going over the last few years, the truth is that there is a lot of untalented people getting employed into these massive studios. There are even entire departments in them with multiple employees being paid very good wages, because also another problem is how many of these studios settle up in very expensive cities, and they're not developing anything. It's departments that provide nothing of value. They're just there for reasons that I honestly can't even make sense of at the end of the day. I know what they're doing. I mean, they describe themselves, and these are departments focused on sensitivity, political correctness, diversity, culling unconscious biases, etc, etc, etc. Like, their very names are a description of what they do, but what I don't understand is how did executives buy into all of this so largely? How did they all collectively think that this would be an improvement for their business rather than a problem? Recently, I brought up the Square Enix ethics department in a different video. That's an example of one of them. There's no reason for it to exist. It doesn't really produce anything within Square Enix. The thing it's mostly known for is a controversy related to the size of Tifa's breasts in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Does it make the game better? No. Does it improve the story? No. Does it improve the character design? Hell no! In fact, some of the writing injected into random NPCs crowding the streets is so terrible, it makes the experience worse.
Landed yourself a cutie, huh? Congrats! You gotta introduce me.
I wouldn't call him a cutie. He's more dashing, like a bull.
Oh, hey, that's great, man. I'm glad you found the one for you. Seriously, congratulations.
Maybe Toby could be your Dylan. The same Toby who was making moves on you? No way. That guy's too big a flirt for my taste. Maybe you're just over men in general. Then would you consider dating me? Huh?
It's so silly the more you think about these departments because these are in companies which were built by decades of putting out great games. If these companies had developers who were so extremely competent that they made great games already, why would they now need external departments to come in and teach or suggest changes to, again, the jobs that they had been doing successfully for years? This modernization and corporatization of the games industry is something that needs to go away entirely. That's a massive part of the solution to this problem that has gaming companies by the balls. The industry grew so much that they started wasting money in search of new ways to make more money. That's what these departments and sensitivity consultants we hear so much about these days are. They are wastes of money that make games worse, but that are so omnipresent across AAA that you'd think that they were enforced through mandates from God or something. And at the end of the day, it's just too many cooks in the kitchen, and of all those cooks, many of them don't even have a place in the kitchen. Even his latter remark about there potentially being less big-budget games getting made is not a bad thing. If you look around right now, there's a bunch of games coming out. So many that people don't even have time to play them all, which isn't necessarily the problem because of course that just means that there's enough games to go around for a wide range of different tastes in a massively growing industry. The problem though is that, first of all, you can take a game made with a small budget and then put it next to a game made with a big budget, and there will be a lot of examples where you either can't tell them apart or where the smaller budget game is actually better than the big budget game. And second of all, when you price those games at $70 and $80, obviously less people will buy them. And the tendency is for that price to keep increasing. I believe we'll soon be seeing the leap towards $100. In a more general scale, I think GTA 6 is basically the first one to do it. But anyway, so the number of video games being made is increasing, their prices are also increasing, but our buying power is getting smaller and smaller. So even if we had more free time to spend playing video games, we still wouldn't be able to afford enough of these new releases to make all of these companies happy with their bottom line. And time is also important because even though Steam is growing, the truth is that the console install base is not. So there's only so much people and there's only so much free time that those people have. So even if you had enough buying power to buy any new game that you want and play it, there would still be companies being left in the dust. So yeah, less developers and useless departments and studios plus less quote-unquote big-budget games that hardly reflect those budgets is actually a very good thing for the future of the industry. If it was being done deliberately. That is the true problem. It's that these things aren't being done as a calm, collected, and calculated solution to a growing problem. They're just being done out of desperation. A desperation so huge that it's not even from failure anymore. I mean, they are failing, but it's just a standard move now. For example, EA also laid off a bunch of people from the team that made Battlefield 6, and they did it after basically announcing how well Battlefield 6 performed. Their CEO even got a huge bonus, millions and millions of dollars. Things are so bad that even if a company succeeds, they're still going to do layoffs because no matter how much you succeed, it's not enough for the margins that they're setting for themselves in an industry that has been essentially corrupted. And that's why this problem isn't just the fault of these AI tech company giants, it's also the fault of the companies in gaming. They're making a bad situation worse. They are making it actually unsustainable. There is a poisonous ooze in gaming. It has infected AAA companies from top to bottom. Profits are not enough anymore, and this is why the future looks so bleak. And by bleak, what I mean is much of what Mr. Who's the Boss pointed out in his video, which mostly comes down to the current business model is not survivable, which is inviting hardcore changes to how we play games, how we buy games, and even how the games themselves are built.
The bastion that for 30 years has been the affordable way to game, the thing your mum could buy you at Christmas, is quietly drifting away from a staple to a luxury purchase. How much more can console and game prices keep going up and demand keep going down before this entire business model for a games console as we know it becomes unviable? I don't think very long at all. These are dark times for video games. I mean, EA is even going all out right now on trying to create a new standard for how in-game advertising works. And they're not scaling them back. They're actually building a platform that would let advertisers in almost real time buy ads that will then appear onto billboards and objects that you will see while trying to play your games. The third situation is mobile gaming becoming more of a default. So if the user base of the smartphone remains steady, and if anything continues to rise, while the pool of people who can keep up with the increasing costs and difficulties of being a console or PC gamer falls, of course I could see a situation where developers are much more incentivized to put their eggs into the mobile basket. Am I happy about that? Hell no. Console games are held to a certain standard that mobile games just aren't. How could that not start to change how game worlds are designed, and even what types of games are made, and how permanently online they need to be connected?
All this AI stuff, it sucks. Oh, it does. It objectively makes building a PC or a console so much more expensive and so much more of a hassle. But it wouldn't be nearly the apocalyptic problem that it looks like it is if these companies weren't so delusionally mismanaged into thinking that they're Hollywood and everything has to be a huge hit to be considered successful, while at the same time their budgets are skyrocketing, which makes the threshold for what constitutes quote-unquote a huge hit to be even more unachievable for what really is just an average video game. They made all the money they possibly could have made under the current business model. They were doing so incredibly well that each year presented revenue growth compared to the last year. Profit after profit after profit until they hit a ceiling and started stagnating. And then later, failing, as they have been now because they're not even making good games anymore. Partly thanks to those departments that make games worse, partly also thanks to a corporatization and collegeification of game studios where they will not hire based on the same metrics that they used 20 years ago, and instead invest into young, inexperienced hires that are easier to handle. This is another big one that doesn't get discussed often. Let me put it in other words. Big companies think that making games doesn't come from creative, talented people. They think it comes from a formula or a template. So they think that they can fire any unruly, demanding, talented creatives and replace them with scores of young greenhorns. Then turn to them, show them a game that's doing numbers, or in Ubisoft's case, put a template of Assassin's Creed in front of them and go, okay, now do that. And that will totally work because in their mind, it's a repeatable formula, like a math thing, rather than an artistic endeavor that requires responsibility, merit, skill, etc. Is it any wonder that writing is so shit in modern games?
We wanted to meet you, to learn from you.
From me?
About the Titans, about our past.
You came here to meet me? To talk to me?
No, the fucking doctor, you idiot!
You look at pictures from the teams that made great older games, and then you look at pictures from teams working on the same franchises now, and there's a stark difference in the vibe the developers had. Also, the new studios, the new teams are so much bigger, which is often waved away like, but of course there's more developers now. Games are now much harder and bigger to make. But really, so many of these new games built by massive teams end up being worse, lacking good writing, lacking attention to detail, lacking heart, and sometimes even lacking fun. So, is the trade-off between a few talented, passionate nerds with an army of diverse, college-educated modern devs really worth it? Honestly, the difference between the caliber of what developers used to be versus what they are now is even more noticeable when you hear them talk.
The difference between good enough and awesome is so big, and I mean there's this standard set by everyone here that, I mean, good enough sucks.
We are the most cynical people. Like, we are the jaded crowd who, if a game doesn't entertain us in 5 minutes, we stop playing it.
And so you can have all the great graphics and all the different characters and lots of different weapons with amazing effects, but if you don't nail that 30 seconds, you're not going to have a great game.
See what I mean? The developers themselves were the biggest critics of their own work. By comparison, these days in modern AAA studios, big companies, what do we hear about more often than not? We hear about offices riddled with toxic positivity. There have been reports from Ubisoft, reports from Sony, including the studio making Concord, the biggest financial failure in gaming, where criticizing your own work was like, I don't know, some kind of hostile workplace type of thing. Recently, we had another huge example with Highguard's failure, also known as Concord 2. Everyone internally glazing the game, no ounce of criticism, then the game releases and the developers just melt down at hearing all about how much it wasn't the perfect little lightning in a bottle situation that they were told for how many years they were working on it. Again, it's just not the same thing at all. Budgets have gone up, game prices have gone up, risk of making a new game has also gone up, but the standards inside the very studios making these games have gone down. If there's one place in gaming where culture shouldn't have softened, it's AAA. I don't want to be too rude in this video, but you need passionate, thick-skinned, high-standard people there who challenge each other, not soy boys who crumble at internal criticism. It's not that they can't make games, they can go ahead and make I can make a game. It's just that they shouldn't be employed in AAA. So anyway, partly thanks to those two things, and of course partly thanks to greed affecting the way that studios work and the way that games are designed. This is also a big one that shills love to pretend like it doesn't matter. I see this type of comment so often where they go, well, if you don't like the microtransaction, just don't buy it. It's not forced on you, it's just extra. It's just cosmetic, guys. In fact, I've seen this type of comment many times recently because of the release of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, which is packed with ridiculously expensive cosmetics. The thing that these people do not understand though is that when you put microtransactions in a game, they're not there to be ignored, buddy. The developers, or especially the executives at the top, want you to buy them. So they're going to introduce subtle changes to those games where there's always something missing. The more a developer deliberately changes their game design to accommodate those microtransactions, the worse those games become. So in an industry where games are already having their quality crippled by a decrease in writing, stories, character design, originality, etc., these companies have an additional problem where the games are unsatisfactory by design because they want to sell you garbage. Gee, I wonder if that's ever going to have an impact on player perception as the years go by. There are two main things that gamers usually bring up when all of this gloomy stuff is discussed. Number one, the big gaming crash and how much they can't wait for it to happen. And number two, how indie games are the future or the saving grace of the industry, which I know some of you don't like to hear about either because it's a bit cringe on account of some indie games still being so terrible. Let's close the video by getting to both of these and talking about the future. The reason why gamers want a gaming crash isn't because we're crazy, mindless nutcases who want to see everything burn. Much the contrary, we love this medium, we want it to endure. But as I hope this video served to show, the only reason why it's in such a problematic position is because of these gigantic companies and their awful decisions. It's not that there is no fixing the current problem. For example, part of the dude's video goes into how the AI bubble might even burst someday, or new solutions may be found in regards to memory and how that could bring normalcy to the regular consumer memory market, or at least make it better, slowly. However, that is going to take time, and time is what these console makers and big companies don't have. Something else he did not mention in his video, but that I will, is that many executives out there are absolutely loving this. They're seeing this as an opportunity to change gaming into a far more monetizable medium. Again, like I said earlier, the alternative these executives like Asha Sharma are suggesting aren't less expensive for us, they're far more expensive. They will generate so much more money for these companies. It will straight up monetize every waking moment that a gamer plays. No more instances where a gamer spends like 50 hours playing an old game that they bought 10 years ago. So time is something console makers cannot afford to waste, and there's a big incentive in making this big move now while they have the AI excuse to justify it with. And so back to the matter at hand. It's not that you cannot fix the issue, it's that they don't want to. They want to make gaming worse because it benefits them to do so, and that's why gamers often cheer for a gaming crash, because that means that these titans will be the ones going down with it. A crash doesn't mean no more gaming anymore, it means the failure of insanely unpopular harmful changes to the medium. It means they lose. And the way that indie games come into this is that if you go back 1,000 years to when gaming was just getting started, it was getting started the way that many indie studios and indie developers are starting these days. For most big studios today, it was success that got them the growth that they got. So in other words, a crash means a reset. Some AA studios I'm sure would still survive and still be around making solid games, while smaller and independent studios would rise and become the future. And that's why people tend to say that they are the future of the industry. It's not because I'm trying to be Quirk Chungus. God knows I know that there's a lot of awful indie games out there. AAA companies might not send me many review keys, but indies do send me stuff very often, and so far I've refused like 90% of it. Some because they look bad, and others because they just don't have enough substance where I'd be able to make a video, so I turned down the key so I'm not an asshole just taking a key and giving nothing in return. When I say they are the future of the industry, I say it because I genuinely believe gaming was never meant to reach the heights that it reached. Gaming went full Hollywood, and you never go full Hollywood. It's a mistake, and it's utterly unfitting for gaming because number one, movie games are extremely expensive to make, and while some movie games are a good time thanks to good writing, movie games are still not ideal. And by the way, I'm not talking about Telltale type of games. I'm talking about movie games. If you know, you know. In gaming, gameplay is still king, so it makes movie games more of a niche than people care to admit. Number two, movie games attract snobby pricks who want to make movies and hang out with celebrities. You don't want snobby pricks who want to make movies making your video games, because that right there is where the bad movie games come from. And where stupid decisions like paying a celebrity to wear a cube outfit to do motion capture comes from as well. This is a huge curse inside of Sony. And number three, now in a more general sense, it's just not healthy for the medium. It's ridiculous that so many games are going into the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budget. Every now and then, some ultra ambitious project, sure, why not? Cross those boundaries, break down those walls. But we are at a point now where games that don't even look AAA, shit, games that aren't even being sold at the AAA price point like South of Midnight, are costing hundreds of millions of dollars to make. This is obviously not sustainable. We are not Hollywood, and we don't need to be. This even resulted in the attraction of really bad kinds of investors and executives that aren't here to make a profit and grow gaming. They're just here to fleece as much money from it as possible. It's all basically become this big gigantic snowball of shit for an industry that was sitting pretty comfortably in a more reserved and responsible position where you could make a great game, sell it, make a damn good profit, get everybody paid, and then use the excess funds to finance your newer games. We were doing just fine, and it's all we ever needed. I see the future of the industry and of the medium in the loss of the problems that made it unsustainable in the first place, and a reset where less money circulates around it, where this poison of infinite trillion-dollar growth is sucked out of the industry, and we either see big companies reaccommodating back to what they used to do best, or where mid-sized and small-sized studios plus new independent ones grow to replace them. Yes, less money in circulation will mean less projects being being greenlit, less games being made, especially big budget ones, and yes, in the chaos we will see household names either undergoing mass layoffs, being sold off, or even being shut down. But honestly, that's already been happening anyway. You look around, we've already lost so many IPs and so many good studios to this poisonous culture. At the end of the day, what's the alternative now? Well, it's the much worse scenarios discussed in this video where we are in an even worse position and the companies that put us there are still around, leeching off of what's left through intrusive and disgustingly unfair subscription services. So yeah, I don't know, food for thought. I'm not really expecting the original poster to see the video, but I wanted to talk about this anyway for any of you who might see it. Things are bad, but these gaming giants are not innocent in it. Truly, they're just making it worse because they choose to. And while things look shaky, it's not all lost. If you invest in a PC, you might end up being just fine. And this is without accounting for luck, because hey, maybe we'll get lucky and someone will finally fire some of the morons in charge of some of these companies and get them back on track to make decisions that make sense. But anyway, either way, that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this little breakdown, liking and commenting are a huge helps to get the video out there a bit more. And yeah, subscribe if you're new and stay tuned for those videos on Motor Slice and Beast of Reincarnation coming soon. I'll see you then. Take care.